around Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler, and Draymond Green. As this is a 2-year window now at this point. Jimmy Butler, max extension. That was the big swing move. Now, what can they do around the margins to get over the hump in the Western Conference? There's some ways that Golden State can make this roster better, though. They got the non-taxpayer mid-level exception, $14.1 million. They get the biannual exception, $5.1 million. And I do believe that if they use either one or both of these two exceptions, they'll be hard capped at the first apron. So expect maybe potentially a money-moving trade. Like they do have some space, I believe about $20 million before the first apron. So they can make this stuff happen. They can sign a guy to this, they can sign a guy to that, and they can maybe get a veteran minimum contract in there as well. So there's opportunity here for Golden State to get up to 3, maybe 4 new additions to this roster, and we see a new look team, especially coming off the bench at least for next season. Now let's get into it. High-end mid-level exception players. This is level 1. We're going to do level 1, level 2, level 3. So right now we're going to do the high-end mid-level guys because we know Golden State cannot sign any of the big fish, if there are any, in free agency this offseason. Obviously, we know Kuminga, restricted free agent. We're not talking about him today. External options only. And we're starting with Nickeil Alexander-Walker here, who I'm a big fan of, man. He really took a lot of steps for me in his career here ever since he's been a part of the Minnesota Timberwolves, man. And it's been awesome to see him be more of a ball handler this past season, especially when it came to the playoffs. A nice 3-and-D option here. He's 6'6", and he can hit at a 40% clip on decent volume. He can defend, most players at the 1, the 2, some at the 3 as well. Just an available corner option, and a player who's going to see a decent payday this offseason. He's going to see a lot of suitors. But I do believe if he were to come to the Golden State Warriors, you could argue that he has just as big, if not a bigger role in Golden State's offense than he already has with the Minnesota Timberwolves. So couple that with a nice payday, and he could be my number 1 free agency target for Golden State at the mid-level this offseason. Now, if he's going to go somewhere else and the Golden State misses out on a Nickeil Alexander-Walker trade, what about Bobby Portis, who the Golden State Warriors have been linked to previously this offseason? Now, remember when Bobby Portis went on FanDuel TV or whatever it was and talked about these rumors that were flying around? He's like, I don't know who writes these things. I don't know how people come up with this stuff because I guess nothing was ever actually rumored or reported to be interest from either sides. But Portis, he's an NBA champion, and he puts up solid numbers throughout his career, man. Kind of the definition of consistency here. Portis is nearly a 40% three-point shooter. Can kind of get his own as well with the ball in his hands. Can get to the in-between game. Has that post-up where he can use his shoulder for a little shimmy and a turnaround jumper. He has that in his bag. And he's also a really, really solid rebounder as well. Nearly double digits each of the last 4 seasons. So he's a player that I'm super interested in Golden State getting this offseason. Is he going to sign more than the mid-level? Probably not, because not many teams have more than the mid-level. If you're not talking about the Brooklyn Nets or the Detroit Pistons this offseason, and the Pistons probably seem focused on Malik Beasley, Bobby Portis is going to be out there on the open market, hopefully after declining that player option, and he probably gets a nice multi-year deal for around that $14.1 million mark. Now, another restricted free agent, not Jonathan Kuminga, no, Santi Aldama, who I think could get around that mid-level exception number. What do you think, Coop? That seems right? I think so too. And he's a 7-footer who, look, I know Tim Kawakami said that he doesn't think they're going to go stretch 5 anymore. I push back on that a little bit. If they see a player like Aldama, and he doesn't necessarily even play like a center either. This guy operates in the wing, in the dunker spot, can put the ball on the deck a little bit. He actually is one of the more feisty players in this league as well. We saw what he was doing against Golden State in that play-in game, and he's lit it up from three-point range this past season and a little bit before. He's really coming along as a player here. Averaged nearly 13 points a game this season. Career highs across the board for Aldama, and I think he could be a legit player with a big role here, as Golden State is pretty thin in the size department as well as in the front court overall. So Aldama is absolutely a name to keep your eye on here as a mid-level target, but Memphis could end up matching the offer sheet that he does sign. Hopefully it's with the Golden State Warriors and Memphis doesn't end up doing that, because I'd love to see him with the Dubs. Pick one to sign, though, for me. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Bobby Portis, or Santi Aldama. Give me an NAW if it's Nickeil Alexander-Walker. If it's Bobby Portis, give me a BP. And if it's Santi, give me an SA down in the comment section. Your number 1 mid-level exception free agent target for the Warriors. Who's it going to be? You let me know. Moving down to level 2 now, the biannual guys, in-betweeners here. I use biannual because that's the next exception that Golden State has. Teams around this league, if they want to add talent externally, they're going to have to use these exceptions. Nobody has cap space, so this is what Golden State has at their disposal. Let's talk about our first tweener here, who could potentially end up being a vet minimum target. But if Golden State is dead set on bringing him here, Brook Lopez is absolutely a name to watch. Now, is he the defender that he once was at this point in his career at age 37? Absolutely not. But he can be a stretch 5 and somebody who I would love for Quentin Post to kind of model his game around, at least the late stage Brook Lopez in his career, because he has been awesome in his Bucks tenure, especially in the offensive end, as he can hit that trailing three-point shot above the break at a really, really high clip, 37% plus, basically throughout his entire Bucks tenure. Not the best rebounder overall, and I know Golden State probably wants to control the glass a little bit better next season, but I like Brook as a veteran leader, especially as well. He's going to be a calming, kind of presence in that locker room and a good mentor to the, Warriors' young front court in Quentin Post and whoever else is down there. I like Brook, and I think he could honestly probably keep Draymond in check a little bit too. That'd be a good role for him to have as a leader off the bench. How about Luke Kennard, sharpshooter? I don't think he's going to get more than $5 million in free agency in the open market this offseason. Age 29, he's not really a great defender overall, but he really provides more than just kind of shooting to his game. Underrated passer of the basketball, can put the ball on the deck and finish at the rim just a little bit in his game. But we know what his calling card is. That's the outside shot. And with a guy who shoots like nearly 7 threes a game most of the time, and with the numbers that he does, 45%, 43% from long range. Oh, yeah, 49% a couple years ago. This past season, I believe he shot like 50% on wide open threes or something like that. Like, it's just freaky numbers. One of the more underrated shooters in the entire league. And if he wants to surround himself and play next to Steph Curry, I'm sure that's one of his effing heroes in his life. He could go to Golden State, and they can make it happen here at the biannual level, and they would be happy to do it, as they need way more consistent outside shooting in that lineup. What about Caris LeVert, though? They also need real good isolation scorers off that bench unit, and I think Caris LeVert can absolutely do that. I don't expect him to be, something crazy in the mid-level or something like that. I think he could be right around this $5 million mark. He's nearly 30 years old now at this point, and not really much of a defender. So, these one-way players, especially a guy like LeVert, who's kind of a volume scorer off of the bench, like, those guys aren't going to be seeing big paydays anymore. And even though, this has been a guy who's averaged 17 points a game in the last 4 seasons, like, he's still, I don't think he's even that level of player anymore that he was in Cleveland and in Indiana way back in the day. So this is a guy who I think is one of those tweener contracts. And for those minutes where Steph, Jimmy, and Draymond are off the floor, or some combo of the three, LeVert can come in and get buckets for that second Golden State unit. They really lacked a guy like this in the lineup on the wing this season. All right, before we get to our last set of free agent targets for your Golden State Warriors, get hooked up with this fresh tease. The 4th is coming up here. Who doesn't want to rock a Warriors tee to chop it up with the family and friends while you're slicing some burgers and dogs up on the grill? Get it at this link right here, chatsports.com/Dubs4th. It's awesome, man. I might get myself one with that USA flag behind the Dubs logo. I'll put that link in the comment section and description for you guys to make it easy as well. Chatsports.com/Dubs4th to get your 4th of July tees today. Level 3, let's close this thing out with vet minimum deals, and most of these are going to be familiar faces. Actually, pretty sure all of them are going to be familiar faces to Warriors fans. As of right now, Anthony Melton, my dog, is he going to be back in Golden State next season? I think so. I'd argue out of every name in this video, aside from the next 2 that we'll talk about, because I think they're very, very likely to come back, Anthony Melton is my most realistic Warriors free agent target this offseason. At the vet minimum level, they signed him to the mid-level contract last offseason. Unfortunately, tore his ACL in November. He looked awesome in the starting lineup next to Steph at the start of the Warriors season, starting 12-3. Next thing you know, he goes down. The Warriors are like 12-21 over the next 33 games or some nonsense like that. So I would love to see him come back into the lineup, and I think he could provide something if he could stay healthy, man. Like, I'm not saying he's going to start, but like, ease into this thing a little bit, play spot 15-20 minutes a night, and he's going to provide solid effort and shot-making ability on both ends of the floor. So I would be very, very happy if Anthony Melton ended up re-signing in Golden State. Just a 1-year deal, vet minimum, get back on your feet, stay healthy for a season, and then that would be a really, really great buy low option for the Dubs, as he fit in awesome to start his Golden State career. And now we'll get to the final 2 targets. Not really targets, because I think it's kind of inevitable at this point. Kevon Looney, is he ever going to lead the Golden State Warriors? It's crazy to believe that he's only 29 at this point. Been with the team damn near a decade now. And I think they have mutual interest in a reunion on the bet minimum level at around $2.6 million or whatever it is. Looney is a good veteran leader down low there, and you can always count on him to give you that effort and be a solid rebounder in the late stages of games when Golden State needs to control possessions, but he just cannot be relied upon in a lot of other areas, and he's really undersized as well. Golden State needs to find fresh blood in that front court. Gary Payton, apparently there's mutual interest in these two reuniting. I won't do it for anything more than the vet minimum. He's just too much of a one-dimensional player at this point, provides nothing offensively, and I really don't want to see him often at all playing postseason minutes anymore, especially down the stretches of games. He hits some threes for me. GP2 is an awesome energy guy, and these two, Looney and GP2, are kind of foundational to the locker room and keeping this Golden State identity together, as they're both multi-time champs with the Dubs. So I'm cool keeping them both on the on the veteran min, and we can go see if we can get any of those external options at the mid-level and biannual level.
The Warriors are operating like a team with no time to waste. Free agency opens July 6th, but Golden State's phone lines are already active. They're pursuing role players who can guard multiple spots, weighing restricted free agency decisions on Kuminga, and now, reports confirm something else. They've made an aggressive push for Giannis Antetokounmpo. Let's go through what they've locked in, who they're targeting, and what the Giannis conversation actually tells us about the plan. The Warriors picked up team options on Quinton Post and Guy Santos. Both players are cost-controlled, and they flashed enough last season to stay on the board. Chris Paul is gone, and notably, that freed up some cap flexibility, but not enough for a max slot. Kevon Looney is still under review, and Gary Payton II is expected to leave. Jonathan Kuminga received his qualifying offer, which allows Golden State to match any external bid. However, at the same time, it sets up a potential sign and trade if the right offer lands. The current cap structure is tight. The front office knows they can't win this offseason through money alone. The priority is fit, not flash. Golden State's target list is filled with defenders, and Herb Jones is high on that list. He's a premier point-of-attack defender with all defensive credentials. The Pelicans want to keep him, but multiple insiders say the Warriors are preparing an offer if New Orleans wavers. Nickeil Alexander-Walker is another name. He's versatile, long, and mobile enough to cover guards and small forwards. His shooting is streaky, but his floor game fits Kerr's read and react system. Delon Wright and DeAnthony Melton are also in the mix. They can handle the ball, pressure the point of attack, and switch across matchups. No one on this list demands touches. These are all high IQ defenders who rotate well and buy into the system. That's the profile they're building toward, especially if bigger names don't land. Reportedly, the Warriors have made an aggressive trade push for Giannis. Giannis hasn't requested a trade, but according to multiple sources, he's open to hearing from select teams. He was seen at Steph Curry's All-Star event in San Francisco, and that's documented. Both parties are represented by the same agency. Golden State seem to be willing to reshuffle core pieces if a Giannis package becomes feasible. That includes Wiggins, and it might even include Draymond. Whether or not the move happens, the pursuit signals that Golden State is aiming for elite defense and two-way power. Next, Kuminga is the biggest lever they can pull. His market value is rising, and teams like Miami and Brooklyn have made inquiries. He fits a lot of rebuilding timelines. If the Warriors keep him, they double down on internal growth and athleticism. But if they package him, they open up trade routes for another high-end starter or draft flexibility. A sign-and-trade involving Kuminga could be the only realistic path to adding Giannis, Jimmy Butler, or even a two-team framework that includes a rebounding big. Interior size is a concern yet. Looney remains one of the best screen setters and rebounders in the league, but he lacks vertical spacing. Golden State hasn't made a move for any true five yet. Names like Brook Lopez, Al Horford, and Steven Adams have floated in reports, but nothing credible has come up. If Kuminga stays and Wiggins isn't moved, the front office may have no space left to solve the paint issue. That makes vet minimums or trade exceptions the only fallback options. Maybe. This offseason can't fix everything, but ignoring the rim would undercut any Giannis trade or wing depth addition. According to analysts, Golden State is one move away from building its identity again. That move may involve Giannis, Butler, or a mix of defenders and role players, depending on how these next few days play out. Kuminga is the swing chip, and the free agent board is already being called. Steph's timeline is all that matters now. Subscribe for all latest updates once free agency opens, and don't miss to drop your take below. Should the Warriors keep Kuminga or move him to go all in on size and defense?